Me too.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. NFC West starts today, Andy. And we're going to start out with the fourth choice by odds to win at the old offshore shop, and that is your Seattle Seahawks plus 540 to win the NFC West and the fourth of four.
Further behind Arizona than I thought when I looked. I thought they'd be closer, I guess.
Yeah, we have two. This is a two-tiered conference. The prices between the Rams and the Niners is you could measure it with a piece of paper, a note card, if you will.
You fold a note card up.
And then the second tier is Cardinal Seahawks. Your mileage may vary as to which of those two you think is third, which is fourth. For me, the Seahawks are third, but that's not how we sort this, Andy. We sort by the market, which is
there are rules. We live in a society. Yes, we are third division. We'll get to all four teams this week, Monday through Thursday. Might be a little scheduling difficulties, and the time might change on Thursday with some traveling I'm doing. But we will get to them all. It's brought to you by Circa Sports, $1,000,007 and Survivor. We'll get to Survivor a little more later when we get to the schedule, but for sure, you're running out of time, guys. Get out to the desert. If you live in Seattle, it's a drive down. Anywhere else, just get out there. Sign up in Nevada, play from anywhere. Like I said, we'll talk a little more Circa Survivor when we get to schedule. But this was a fun team.
Hard one.
It was tough, but maybe the most fun to look at when you look at it through the scope of off-season moves, because they made a bunch. And some of it is fine. Like, I get what you're doing with some of this, the timing, I guess. Especially when we compare it against the backdrop of, Jesus, I mean, he's in the news right now. Jerry's shooting his mouth off about Micah Parsons. Like, when you talk about how the Cowboys have mistimed a lot of things, they said, hey, DK is expensive. We got to figure this out. We're going to have to sort this out, get this contract right. He says, I'd rather not be here. All right, you're gone. We're going to find someone else. And kind of the same thing with Geno. He had to make decisions. He's 35. We can, are we going to want to pay him? Are we going to want to extend that? Are we going to want to try something else as we look at when, our timing, our window is going to be open? And they said, he's 35. Let's find something a little. It still blows my mind how young Sam Darnold is. Feels like he's been in the league for 15 years just because he's been passed around like a, pack of smokes in prison. But they got a lot younger, cheaper.
Did they?
A little cheaper. They got a lot younger.
Did they?
I think it's a little cheaper. I'll double check that. I could be. Okay. They still are paying good quarterback money, but they got a lot younger. They drafted a quarterback in the third round.
Yeah.
A bit of a developmental piece, I guess, but a lot of turnover on the offensive side of the ball. They tried to fill some holes. I don't know that they did on the offensive line. Yeah. And like you were saying off the air, the defense is a little tough to figure out.
Yeah, I think the reason that I find this to be a very tricky handicap is a lot of the softer qualitative stuff that I use to sort of kind of help me make a decision of, like you get a piece of information and it's like, well, this could be read as good or bad. I'm not sure. And there's a lot of that with Seattle, right? Like the stuff you're talking about, like, was it good to kind of let Geno Smith probably move on? Yeah, probably was. But did you upgrade with Darnold? No, probably not. And is the Darnold contract that it's not like a Daniel Jones like nukes your 3 year. It's it's not like if this doesn't work,
it's shorter.
It sinks the entire Mike Macdonald regime the way the Daniel Jones and did to the Dable regime, I guess, and the Shine regime. Shane, excuse me. I think, but there's stuff like there's another great example. They fired their offensive coordinator after 1 year. Like, is that good or bad? Right? It's like, is it good that they did some self-evaluation? They were like, this isn't going to work. We need to pull the plug now and find another answer. Or is it bad that they're like, the original decision they made wasn't a good one, that they had to make a change in 1 year? Is the next guy going to be able to do any better?
Well,
I don't know.
We often laud teams for that, not being sunk cost, stuck on some, like the Josh Rosen one is something that's always stuck in my mind.
No, for sure.
This guy isn't it. We can see it. We're evaluating this kid daily. We're just going to take another quarterback. Granted, it's not like they've won Super Bowls.
They also had the first overall pick for.
But yeah, I was going to say that played into sure played into it. I think a lot of teams be like, well, we got to give this kid time. Let's trade that pick. But they just said, no, we like this guy better, and we're fine moving on. But the other end of that spectrum is sometimes a team can be too reactive. And, you mentioned getting rid of Ryan Grubb after 1 year. Everything I read was just he wasn't – it's not like he wasn't doing what he said he was going to do, but it wasn't the vision they had for this offense. He, abandoned the run too much for the liking of the powers that be. They didn't love some of the personnel groupings they used, and they went with somebody in Kubiak. Now they bring in Clint Kubiak, who was with the Saints. They bring in somebody who's going to use quite a bit different personnel. I suppose injuries always play into personnel and what you use, but based on what they used in Seattle last year, and granted they had 3 great wide receivers, why wouldn't you use 11 constantly? It looks like it's going to be a lot heavier, a lot more 2 tight ends, a lot more 12, 22, 13, a lot more tight ends out there as you struggle to figure out who your third wide receiver is, and a lot more running the ball and outside zone, which I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt on this at all. But this is where surprises come into play, whereas we're not really all that excited. These tackles are the strong point of this offensive line. They're still not good. I mean, they're not great. I'm not super jazzed about these tackles. It's just they're much better than the interior offensive line.
2 years ago, they had a nice season. Both of them.
Yeah, it's just,
you could have made a credible case they were a top 3 tackle duo, and now you look at them because that last year was so marred with injury, and you're just like, and the
injury and inconsistency.
The sum of the parts was so far below, replacement level that you're
having
just
to play with
that
interior.
Suck. Yeah,
but no, that's what I'm saying is this is where surprises come from when you run a completely different offensive scheme, and inside zone it, you want to take a guy and push him 13 yards back. Outside zone, you're taking guys and moving them the other way, and you're creating cutback lanes. And sometimes it's just we're better at this. Hey, this guy who's a above average tackle, very good tackles. This guy who's won, I'm not saying any of this is going to happen, but this is where surprises come from. And that's what we're doing in the summers, trying to predict the range of outcomes for a lot of these things. So then that all leads back to exactly what you said. It's a fucking hard team to handicap because we got a new scheme, new coordinator. We're replacing most of the offensive playmakers outside of the running backs who nobody's said. You got a new quarterback who had just the highest of highs at times last year, but then ended against a couple good teams and looked, very Jets circa 2017. When was he?
I mean, that part of, we can talk about that a little bit now, I guess. That part of it's interesting to me because the Vikings let Sam Darnold walk away with no compensation effectively. They'll get a compensatory pick, I guess, next year, right? Because he did sign, they'll probably get a 4th or something like that. So they will get something for developing Darnold and then just letting him walk out the door. But
you get a full 3rd because of,
you think?
Yeah,
because he's quarterback.
I think you get. It's based on how much. I think it's based on
the number, right? It's
how much they get paid. And since he's a quarterback, it's like
it'll be a third. Okay,
it's a third rounder.
So that's good compensation, but like ultimately, if they were satisfied with what they had, they let JJ redshirt another year, right? Like it wasn't the type of cost that would have prevented them from running it back, and they let Darnold move on, and there is now a very reasonable world where you look at what Kevin O'Connell has gotten out of the quarterbacks that he has tutored, and that they are coming up with 95 to 98th percentile performances within their skill set. And you're like, some of that's probably Kevin O'Connell. You also want to kind of point out that he happens to be playing with the best wide receiver in the NFL, maybe the second best, in Justin Jefferson. That probably made Darnold look a little better than he actually is, right? And none of that exists in his landing spot in Seattle. So there is very, very reasonable expectation, I think, that you look at his EPA per play type of numbers from last year, and you expect them to be less good this year. And in the vacuum of any other information, just because of the situation.
I mentioned this too with a signing. I said, hey, I don't remember who it was, but it was like a defensive lineman that the Vikings signed this offseason. And I said, that's not a good sign for you that you let him go and the Vikings sign him, because Flores, for the last couple of years, his signings have gone well. Like he knows what fits, and he knows who still has tread on the tires. And it's the same kind of thing with Darnold. They could have kept him. They could have paid him a pretty reasonable amount, signed him for another 2, maybe 3 years, and gone status quo with it and gotten kind of what they got. And I think it would have been more of the same. It would have been, we're not here to talk about the Vikings, but it probably would have been the similar, where you're getting high-end Sam Darnold, but high-end Sam Darnold's still probably not enough to win playoff games against elite teams with, good defensive schemes. And that's probably what you're going to end up with this year, and especially since it wasn't ever the plan. They didn't want to go into the season and play Sam Darnold. That was a 1 year, hey, we don't really have a lot of quarterbacks.
It wasn't clear that he was going to be the quarterback for the whole year.
Yeah. No, they were like, hey, we need something, because the JJ injury kind of snuck up on us here, and he was going to be the starter. Yeah.
No, I bet you anything, when we did the Vikings last year, we probably looked at their schedule and we were like, God, those first 5 games are a disaster, nightmare. Like, most likely JJ starts week 6. That's when you pull the switcheroo. Like, Sam Darnold felt like a sacrificial stand-in for the opening portion of the season before JJ was ready to go. And he ends up starting the full season and earning now starting quarterback money for at least this year. But like, this is why it's tough. This is it in a nutshell, why it's tough to come up with a fare for the Seahawks. You have to take a stand. You have to take a stand.
Put your flag in the ground.
Put your flag in the ground. Like, Darnold is as good as he looked last year in aggregate, or he's going to be worse.
We have very differing opinions.
You have to choose
in the live chat right now. Yeah. We have people on both ends of that spectrum, and I think that's what you're going to have from most analysts on this team. Is like, Darnold can repeat that, because here's the pros. It's like, it's a similar system. It still has a couple of good wide receivers, and he has familiarity, and now he's
gaining experience.
He gained some momentum and confidence. Yeah. But the negatives are, we've seen the lows for Sam Darnold.
Sure.
And this is not Kevin O'Connell. It's Clint Kubiak. And there's no Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
And despite some injuries, that was a better offensive line. And we saw what happens when the offensive line got banged up, and when there was teams that could get serious interior pressure. So I'm of the mind that Sam Darnold isn't going to be horrible, but he's certainly not going to be what we saw last year at his height.
He also played a lot of games indoors.
That's true.
Just saying.
And truthfully, they've even said, a direct quote from the coaching staff was, they said, we want him to play like 90+% of the snaps. Like, they're already putting in packages for Milroe, which is fun.
That's cool.
I think that's actually a positive for the team, because he is an athlete, and I think they can do some fun misdirection. And he's not Taysom sized, but Taysom style stuff, where you bring him in for a drive or a series and that stuff. Jeez, Ethan. Yeah. Oh, and Sam said the same thing. Milroe can be Kubiak's Taysom Hill. That's kind of what my read was. It's like they are building packages for him.
Better than
They're
being
excited
Art
about
Smith's Justin Fields, I guess.
That's true. And yeah, he's going to short yardage, red zone. Like he's going to be used for sure, which doesn't speak to super confidence. And like, if you're pulling out your starting quarterback that you just paid for some sub packages,
yeah,
you didn't sign Tom Brady. So
okay, let's talk. Last year, the Seahawks won 10 games. I actually did a what? Wait, what? I forgot. That
they won ripped down the stretch.
Yeah, they were very live. If they don't, dink off in that. What was there was a game late in the season where I thought they let it slip through their fingers. It was the OT loss to the Rams hurt a lot, but the Vikings lost by 3 there late in the season was pain. That ultimately ended their hopes for a playoff spot, despite with 10 wins. But again, like this is like the weird sort of dichotomy of this team is like they were a double-digit win team last year, and yet it felt like they had so much still to figure out, and the season felt uneven, and it felt like they had injury luck, and it felt like there were all kinds of miscues and nonsense going on with Geno Smith, particularly in the red zone, and like it didn't feel like a team that really succeeded or had good just good vibes at all. They won 10 games, and now like they're the fourth choice. They're the fourth choice in their division, and this is not a division with like some screaming. There's no Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen and ahead of you in this division here. Like it's crazy to me how perception is really, really shifted on these guys. And I don't know. I mean, they did exceed their Pythag by a decent amount. Their expected win-loss was 8.7 compared to the 10 wins they got. I didn't feel like they really blew any games necessarily in terms of, they really should have won that, except for the Giants game, where they were massive favorites and they lost outright. But that was early in the season when there was a lot to figure out still with that defense. It was interesting to see the evolution of the Mike Macdonald defense over the balance of the season. I know very well that it took 2 years for the Baltimore Ravens players to fully learn and execute what he wanted to do defensively when he was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore. And surely it felt like the learning curve was steep for a lot of those guys. And then they just full on churned linebackers. Like they
got rid of
guys not working. Like they were churning at that position. And that's a tough way to live in the NFL if you're just replacing your middle linebacker every week. But ultimately down the stretch, they ended up pretty strong overall as a unit. They had some nice performances, particularly after their bye week, I thought. And I mean, like realistically, nothing has happened in the offseason. Would expect that the defense is not going to be a little bit better this year. So I don't know.
Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks 6, Bears 3. Someone's mentioned that
was
day after
standalone Thursday game.
The day after Christmas, Ben Folds 5 brick was about an abortion memorial 6-3 game because that was a horrific game to watch. The Giants game might have been worse because they were so bad in that game against a team they should have just been dummying. And granted, it was a little bit of a, like you said, tale of two seasons, and some of it centered around the linebacker changes. And we said that going into the season where it's like, it's so hard for him last year. And this was kind of where I took a stand against the Seahawks a little. I said, it's so hard to just implement a completely different defense without your guys. And you can't replace everybody all at once. You just don't have the resources and they're not out there. And I love that he went in the middle of the season and said, I want Ernest Jones the fourth. I want him on my team. We're trading for him. I want him now. And the same thing with Trice Knight. Like, both middle linebackers that were playing okay, it just wasn't a scheme fit. And it's crazy because after you replace those guys, you saw a massive improvement in the coverage, in secondary, in pass game, just playing against the pass. And sometimes It's the little things that we're not paying attention to that he knows. Like, I need linebackers who are able to do this and better in coverage that can move around.
Yeah,
and it
he
just
was looking for his Roquan Smith.
He needed some. Yeah, this is true. The guy that they cut was their leading tackler, and truthfully, he said that was part of the problem. Was just like we were asking too much out of those guys and funneling it towards him when we needed guys who were doing different things, and that's where they loved. And they re-signed Ernest Jones. They're a big fan of him. They've got some good secondary pieces. They were in love with the safety they drafted in the second round, so it might be. I'm much more willing and able in my mind to say this defense could take a big step forward rather than Sam Darnold and Cooper Kupp are the answer to this offense. Like I have a strong feeling this is going to be a team that is maybe an under team because I could definitely see this. I can just see this defense taking this big step forward now that we've got a couple more of Mike Macdonald's guys and a little more buy-in to the system, and DeMarcus Lawrence, which is not a bad signing.
Nice piece.
Yeah, I mean he didn't play very much last year with a Jones or a Liz Frank or something down below his ankle, but he's very good. And yeah, I'm very keen on this defense. I just can't get there with the offense right now. So let's look at the rest of the offensive or the rest of the off-season moves. We've mentioned most of them. I just brought Cooper Kupp up. It's been a long time since 2021. 3 years, $45 million, 18 games missed in the last 3 years. A lot of soft tissue injuries. That's sus, as the kids say. He's still a very good receiver. They brought in a swing tackle in Josh Jones. They brought in your third receiver now is Marquez Valdez Scantling. Cheap, but as I mentioned too, they are going to go a lot more two tight ends. So maybe less important in this type of offense where they're going to run. And honestly, they're going to start using fullbacks a little as well. So DeMarcus Lawrence was a good signing. That's a Pro Bowl edge rusher. A few other depth guys at other positions.
Shaq Griffin.
Corner. Yeah, Shaq Griffin probably competing. But as I mentioned in the draft, I'm going to skip over Gray Zabel and talk about Nick Manawari from South Carolina. They tried to trade in. They tried to trade back into the first round to get him. They tried multiple times to trade up, and finally they traded I think with Tennessee to get him at 35. They're jacked about this. They obviously, if you look back at what they did in Baltimore, there might not be a who's the third corner, because they might just run three safety a bunch. And they've got two other corners and a safety that can move around a lot, and it might be a very amorphous kind of defense back there. And I think this kid plays right off the bat as as your third safety, and kind of that there is a bit of a competition. You mentioned Shaq Griffin, between him and I'm trying to look at Josh Jobe and some of these other guys for cornerback 3, but with Witherspoon able to play outside as well, and honestly, Manawari being able to play in a multitude of spots.
Yeah, they're kind of loaded.
It might be like, hey, Shaq Griffin, good job competing. You won that spot. You're playing 25 snaps a game. Like,
that's probably fine though.
We're
that's a good problem.
deep there, but that's where you get into a little bit of an issue. Not deep anywhere else. Not deep at linebacker. Not terribly deep at outside of pass rush. They got a little bit of help. Chenna is on the pup right now. I'm gonna have to double check that injury. I think he's gonna be okay, but Boye Mafe, he's third year now, fourth year. Derek Hall, Jonathan Hankins in the middle. Like, they have some depth, but they do lack a little bit of depth in the rest of the defense.
Sure. A lot of high draft investment though across that front seven.
I think if they're healthy, it's not as bad in the pass rush. But like we said, Lawrence was an injury last year. Don't know if he's 1,000%. And the same thing with Chenna Nwosu, is starting camp right now on the pup.
A lot of draft and just dollar capital in that front four.
You want to talk about the offensive line? I skipped over Gray Zabel. He's your left guard. That's
He
happening.
replaces to Tomlinson.
Yeah, you're. Who did they get rid
have
of
last year? I can't remember. Wasn't it Tomlinson? I'm drawing a blank.
Fant was like backup tackle. I'm trying to think of the guard that they had there.
Bradford started a bunch of games, but I think
Bradford did play, and he's
promoted him.
He's in the mix, and that's the thing too. Between center and right guard, there's like 5 guys for 2 spots, and nobody is really.
17 starts out of Laken Tomlinson last year, who I don't know, man. He's a Texan now. Good luck to the Texans. That was not a huge fan of his work. He was your most available. He was your most available offensive lineman by a lot, though. The
best ability is availability. So, Oluwatimi,
Charles Cross started 17 games. I should take it back.
Yeah, Jalen Sundle, Christian Haynes, Anthony Bradford, and then possibly even rookie Bryce Cabeldu. I'm not sure I'm doing his name credit right now. So there's a bunch of names in the mix for right guard and center. So it's very apparent those are 2 weak spots. And as excited as we are about Gray Zabel, especially Gray Zabel kicking to guard where I think he's going to be good, he's still starting his very first game once we get to week 1. So this is maybe the biggest sore thumb stick out weakness is interior offensive line is almost certainly going to be a weakness.
Yeah, the center grade I have is pretty low. And some of that is just because I don't know much about Oluwatimi. But he is a 5th rounder from last year. Started 8 games. Could be a bit of an adventure at center. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Interior O-line looks sus. Again, surprising. I mean, not surprising. This is it's probably a bottom 5 O-line, right?
Yeah. And granted, it has some upside with a first round talent at guard and a couple of tackles who we've seen flashes of good from.
Yeah.
But
what did you think about the decision to move off of DK Metcalf? The Lockett move made sense, but the Metcalf
the Lockett one was cap, but Metcalf didn't want to be there, and they were looking to like extend or rework his contract, and it makes it awful hard when he's asking for a trade. So I guess they just said there are people out there that are available, and Cooper Kupp was one of them. They were very impressed, and I think we all were with Jackson Smith and Jigba. He is a 1. He can be your 1. That's fine. I think, you could do a lot worse. But Cooper Kupp brings, a lot of injury risk. And like we said, MVS is certainly not. If he were great, he'd be on the last 5 teams he's with, man.
It's a little unclear to me who on the Seahawks in their wide receiver room, who now is responsible for running down the intercepted passes from Sam Darnold.
Jake Bobo. Honestly, Jake Bobo, I've seen some decent play out of him when he in limited time getting in. Him playing against or ahead of MVS isn't out of the realm of possibilities. We haven't mentioned the running backs at all. 100% status quo. Kenny Walker III, Zach Charbonnet, Kenny McIntosh. It's the same running back room. Asked to do, like we said, it's asked to do something a little different, but it's not as if you're asking him to relearn football. I mean, everybody's run outside at some point. So different scheme, maybe, and none of them were bad. It just there's been injuries, quite a few injuries to those guys over the course of their short careers. And they abandoned the run quite often in the previous regimes, the previous Grubbs OC tenure. So maybe we haven't seen the best of them yet. So like the upside for me on offense would be Kupp stays healthy, mentors a young JSN. They both play pretty good. We go more tight end heavy. You have, this rookie Elijah Arroyo. I'm not so sure how much they want to use him, but you have AJ Barner and gosh, who was they got rid of a tight end as well. So Bear is gone, and there's a bunch of tight ends that I'm not rating the tight end room terribly well, but there's some experience there along with Elijah Arroyo, the rookie who they took. Gosh, where was he? He was
got rid of a bunch of tight ends who were zeros. The guys that are gone were zeros. Yeah.
No, Noah Fant. I was going to say it just happened. Noah Fant was released yesterday. This Arroyo kid, some people view him as more of a blocking tight end, but go look at his numbers. He can catch the ball. So cool. It'll be interesting to see what the upside for the offense is. Those two wide receivers that are household names play well, and you got to get something out of the interior offensive line. So when it's like we do this a lot when we talk about things happening in real life, like football. It's a same game parlay. My same game parlay is, Olu Olutimi is a 15th best center. Anthony Bradford is the 15th best right guard. The rookie plays well. The tackles stay healthy. Cooper Kupp stays healthy. And there's minimal regression with Sam Darnold. So we've got a 7-legger.
That still gets you to what, league average offense, probably?
I think that gets you to it's like your 13th best offense,
13th?
right?
Okay. I'll allow it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's you do need a ton. And as Sam's pointing out too, in neutral and leading game states, I do think this is a better fit for the running backs and these tackles. And we might see a decent run game when you are able to run the ball with the lead. But I do worry about catch-up time when, we've seen this shift across the league and teams spending money on elite interior defensive presences. And you're facing some of them this year. Some of them are in your division. So you're facing them a couple times. And, if you're trailing and your offensive line can't stop the defensive tackles and they're able to bring extra pressure as well from the outside, and Darnold's seeing ghosts and having mononucleosis and such is life.
Who is the next option up? Drew Lock. Oh, man.
Drew Lock has started 25 games, man. Somehow, some way.
Unlikely that Jalen Milroe will be ready to make starts for them this year, I would guess. All right. I think that the job at hand is pretty straightforward, though, right? Score 20 points and hope our defense keeps our opponents to 17. I kind of think that's a win. Every game the Seahawks win, it kind of is going to feel like that, I think. I guess I'm not going to be surprised if they have a 10-win season again, certainly. But I think they could do that with the 25th best offense.
It could be a fun live betting team as well. If a lot of what we've said comes to fruition, where like Sam's point is, they're good with the lead, they're bad trailing. That's a very fun second half team to bet or bet against. True. Especially dependent on opponent. Where they're trailing and the offense or the opponent has a very good pass rush. They can get a ton of pressure from multiple places. I will take the opponent plus 3.5 in the second half.
Okay. Let me ask you one question. As you were preparing and looking at the roster, like another one of the sort of the questions, was like JSN looks like he's got something, right?
Yes.
Is it? But the but is he's playing from the slot for the most part. Do you see a world where he is as good as I don't know, like a CD Lamb type of outlier performing in the slot, or is that asking too much?
I think he's just gonna have to play outside more.
Do you think that's how they're going to use him? I kind of assumed that they were just going to make him a pretty featured guy in the slot.
I'll have to go look at the splits do you have that in front of you? The slot / outside snaps he took last year?
No,
I'll have to
I don't.
pull up PFF, but I guess my assumption when they signed Kupp was he's going to play outside more. And by he, I mean JSN. because I think he can do both. And not that Cup can't do both, but I think they're going to have to split time there, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him in that sense too, because like you said, he did some damage out of the slot for sure.
Okay, you want to look at the schedule?
Yeah, not a lot else for
Off-season
stuff. We mentioned all the big stuff. They had a lot of draft picks, but a ton of it was just after Milroe in the third round. You got a defensive end with a torn ACL. That's he's a project. Get some, and then a bunch of depth at like special teams and offensive line.
Cool. Tough schedule, at least based on the number of wins implied and the number of times you are an underdog, at least for now. A lot of close games, a lot of coin flip games. The only game where you were favored, actually, I take it back, 2 games right now where you were favored by more than a field goal. One of them is week 3 when you host the Saints. The old Kubiak revenge game. Yes. And then week 15 where you host the Colts. So really only 2, I would qualify likely wins. 3 qualified likely losses, although they don't really feel that out of reach. At Washington, at Rams, at San Francisco, where you're 5, 4.5, and 4.5 point dogs respectively. This is not making it easier, Andy. That's all. Every other game is inside of 3. That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of. But you're also
12
a bunch
of your
of
games
teams
are inside of 3.
I think, and there's so many teams that are like upside teams too, where if like
no doubt,
if more teams are good than are bad that fit into your little schedule out of the coin flips, suddenly at the end of the season we look and be like, man, they played like the 8th toughest schedule.
Sure.
Because Minnesota was good and they played Arizona just turned out to be turning it around faster than they thought. Jacksonville played good. Tampa Bay was able to keep it going. Like there's just like 5 or 6 games like that. That's suddenly turns it into a tough schedule. They are the beneficial playing New Orleans early, as Taysom Hill almost certainly will not be on the field for them, tearing his ACL in like week 13. And as you know, Taysom Hill is dangerous with the ball in his hands. So that's a little boon for them. Their other one that you mentioned where they're a big enough favorite is Indy. I guess I'd rather play Indy early before they have it figured out at quarterback, but I'm not uber confident that they'll ever figure it out at quarterback with the pieces they have on the roster right now. So you can get a win there. You got Tennessee on the road, but the rookie's had 10, 11 weeks to get his feet wet. Carolina is another close one. That's another team we've liked some of the roster moves. And that could be a spot where you're not actually favored in the long run. If things are trending downwards and Carolina's offense continues to move forward, that could be a dead nut under too, the way those defenses are set up. Geez.
Yeah. But yeah, the number of games that are right around 1.5 on this schedule is insane. And it kind of points to a pretty clear conclusion, which is if you are going to plant your flag and say, no, Darnold is going to repeat last year's performance numbers, then you're going to be betting on the Seahawks every fucking week. And if you are planting your flag that Darnold is going to regress, you are going to be betting against the Seahawks every fucking week. At least through the first 7 weeks of the season, where they are 1.5 point dogs 4 times and 1.5 point favorites once. It's crazy. So
this is a team that might fall into some teasers.
Oh man. Oh my goodness. Oh, Andy, thank you for saying that out loud.
We're changing the team name.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the Seattle Stanford Wongs.
This is a dream team for teasing. Holy smokes. 1.5 out to 8 out to 7.5. Oh baby. 1.5 out to 7.5. 1, 2, 3, 4 times in the first 6 weeks. Unreal. get the defense plan. I guess you run into issues in those games if the score gets away from them, and then you're literally sweating Sam Darnold putting up a garbage time touchdown.
Patrick says no chance I have him in that week 1 teaser. No, I I have so much uncertainty around this team. I'm not excited about that, but down the road, maybe against them, Arizona week 10, if that stays somewhere in that range, plus Arizona plus 7.5 on the road. I can think of some worse bets I've made. So I'm kind of in the boat that I don't think Sam Darnold is going to repeat. But I do think this defense is going to be good. It's going to be a bunch of close games, and if somebody's already making fun of Sam Darnold, it's, when you have a tight game and it's crunch time, you need to call on Sam Darnold. So that's, I think, and we talked about it 5 different times now. We're going to have to find out, but I think that's basically one of the biggest leverage pieces in the entire league, because they do have a good defense. They are going to play a bunch of close games, and Sam Darnold is going to be the difference between like 6 and 11 wins because of late game situations. We're going to have to find out that, is he going to be able to get it? It's, they're losing 17-14. He needs to drive down the field. Like that's going to happen like 5 times this year, it feels like. And, how those games goes is probably how this season goes.
Yeah. Difficult travel schedule for the Seahawks. I want to point out, this is, despite not making an international trip, this is going to be your most frequent flyer squad of 2025. They make 6 cross-country flights to the East Coast. None of those 6 are in back-to-back weeks. So there is no consolidation of travel where they get the extended, stay at the Greenbrier or whatever. They're just constantly going back and forth across the country. So that's not going to feel great, particularly late in the season. There's 3 of them in 5 weeks, 3 of them in 6 weeks that don't look fun.
Is it? And then just, if you are going to use this team in Circle Survivor,
yes,
probably just the 2 spots.
It's really week 3.
It's week 3, but if you have something better and you want to go against the grain there,
you're hoping that Mike. You're hoping Mike Macdonald's what do you call it? What's this pressure scheme where they fake who's coming? Why am I drawing a blank? Oh my God,
me too.
Monday. I had too much.
Monday in July, man.
His unique, very, if you don't already know, Mike Macdonald's what made his Ravens defense special.
Yeah, the misdirection.
When what we're expecting he carries over to this second year in Seattle with the defense's ability to confuse quarterbacks about where the pressures come, simulated pressures, just really kind of dictating where the open play or where the open receiver is going to be, turning what made Kyle Shanahan's offense so special against him and dictating space to the offense as the defense is kind of the way I read his system. That should work well against Tyler Shug. Are we calling him Shug?
Shuck.
We're calling him Shuck. It should work pretty well against Tyler Shuck in his 3rd ever start, if he's the starter in New Orleans in week 3. So that's a pretty nice spot, honestly, to fire some Seahawks. Although I got to imagine, because that is the only spot of value on their entire schedule, that's probably going to be consensus week 3.
Very popular. Very, very popular.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk ratings, because it sounds like we're close.
Yeah,
but
I would say so.
And it's funny too. Everyone, a lot of the people who are pro Seahawks in the chat are saying, well, just a really good defense, and he only has to score this many points. Well, he had the 2nd best defense by DVOA last year.
And they won a lot of games.
They won a lot of games.
Yeah.
But it's like much better offensive line.
Sure.
Justin Jefferson. Like, where does a step back land them offensively? Because I think even the Hardy Seahawk, like Maxey, has to know that, it's going to take a step back, and I think how far that step back is the interesting part here for sure.
I have Sam Darnold and Clint Kubiak combining to be the 20th best QB OC combo. I gave them a 4.2.
I got to find mine. Seattle 4 flat. I still just went with pretty even numbers here to start before I tighten them up. But yeah, I was fair. I was fine with that. I looked at some of the other numbers that we talked about. Like I'm higher on Denver. I'm higher on, some of these other teams with less experienced quarterbacks, but it is going to start at a 4 for me.
Cool. We're close. I mean, we're splitting hairs. Skill group for you?
Skill group is a 4.75.
Okay.
Yeah. Tight ends, question mark, and they're going to get used, so they matter. Running backs are good, not great, but they have upside with the new scheme. And you have a couple of good wide receivers. One of them's a little older and a little beat up. No depth, honestly, at wide receiver. So slightly below average, but good.
Yeah. To answer Birdie's question, what would my quarterback rating have been if Geno is still there? I can tell you 4.6. So slightly better. No disagreement with you on skill group. I guess that has scope to go up if JSN emerges as a top 4
100%.
or 5 guy, and if this heavy sets with the tight ends work out, and Arroyo and Barner are kind of credible every down players in the NFL, which remains to be seen, then I'm going to go higher. But yeah, I also don't really have much affinity for Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet felt like he was the poppier of the running backs at times last year, but he was only started 6 games to Walker's 11.
Yeah. Not known for their durability either.
No, both.
You're going to get plenty of both.
Yeah. I feel like, did Charbonnet outsnap him? He outperformed him in my total number that I have.
Well, when they were both healthy, they both played. And
177 touches for Sharb, 199 touches for Kenneth Walker, and Charbonnet was the more valuable of the two.
What about Kenny McIntosh?
I have no idea what to expect from Mr. Mac. Offensive line was tricky because I feel like I'm too high. I went 3.5. Where are you?
3.25.
Okay.
So yeah, like we've talked about him at length already. Tackles with upside, got to stay healthy. Obviously, if you have one tackle injury, this might be a bottom 2 offensive line because the interior is just that weak at this moment, and you're starting a rookie at guard.
Yeah,
so
bad synergy too, potentially, with your weakness being interior and Sam Darnold being susceptible to that. Susceptible to interior pressure, and as many have pointed out, seen ghosts when you have quick pressure up the middle on him. Okay, so
24th best offense
25th
with room to grow. If we see I think this is the big question, and every team, we talk about this over and over. You have huge questions going into the season that you have to answer. If we see it week 1, and there's a couple games early where it's like these aren't the toughest spots. They could play well against these offensively. If they put together an offense that maximizes getting the ball out quick to, 2 elite slot receivers and 2 running backs who can catch the ball and these tight ends that are a bit of an unknown. But if they say, hey, we're going to get fucking smoked if we leave Sam back in the pocket for 7-step drops and long developing plays down the field. Like, Geno was our deep ball guy. Maybe that isn't our game. And if if Clint puts together this offense that is quick hitting, a lot of stuff, it's a West Coast offense. Why wouldn't it be? Why couldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be? So if he's getting the ball out of his hands quick and the interior offensive line is still shitty, but it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
Maybe this takes a big jump up for me right away.
Okay.
But I have to see it first.
Defense was a little bit more rosy for me. We are not in the same tier as far as predicting these defenses based on what we were talking about pre-show. I'm pretty bullish on these guys relative to market, I think. My run stop is 5.1, my pass rush 7.1, and my coverage is 6.3. So I end up with the 6th best defense as far as neutral rating for the Seahawks. Where are you at?
Yeah, 4.5 on run stop. I didn't have great metrics on it, but again, some of that, we talked about this. When he replaced the linebackers, everything got better. And
Surely.
It was almost a tale of two seasons, tale of two halves. And I didn't know how heavily to weigh that. So 4.5 for me on run stop, 5.5 on pass rush. Just because of some of the injury stuff, I'm very willing to move that. Like yours is 7. Like ceiling is probably. Well, I think the ceiling is like 7.5, 8.
Check out with how their pass rush win rate looked last year. That's for sure. But they were really good at getting pressures. Their pressure rate was awesome last year, and that may be the Mike Macdonald effect.
Yeah, and then 5.75 on coverage. It's still like it's close to the 10th best defense. I still think it's a good defense. I just didn't know how much benefit of the doubt I wanted to give them based on the last 8 games of the season.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I think it will surprise me if I end up outside of my top 10 unless there's some massive problematic injury. I think they're going to be in the top 10, and it's just a matter of do the pieces start to add up to more than the sum of the parts, thanks to Macdonald.
Yeah. And then, like we said, we saw good performances late in the season, but at the same time, when you went up against better teams like Minnesota and Green Bay in those back-to-back weeks, which were both at home, by the way, like they put up 57 points combined. You gave up 21 to the Jets, again on the road, but so some of these spots later in the season, they still did give up some points, even after that defense improved. And I have some higher numbers on this for the same reasons that you said. Like looking into the metrics I pull for defense, like some of the win rates and pressure rates, it's like none of this makes sense. And maybe we can kind of put that squarely on Macdonald's shoulders as far as the scheme's working and it's starting to come together. So I'm maybe I'm at the floor of where I should be here, which is good because it's still the 11th best defense that I have ranked right now. That's good. And it certainly can move up based on what we see early on.
Top 6 pressure rate last year.
Yeah. So DVOA again is full season stuff. They finished 10th last year. Where was it? But it was, 11th in pass, 12 against the run. So good in both phases of the game there. Maybe I'm a little low.
EPA per play, they were top 10 total last year. Yeah, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that the growth we saw is something that carries over. And I honestly, I think what they did personnel-wise on defense looks good to me. This looks like a good. They look like they could kick ass. Just don't know if that's going to translate to wins. How many times a year can you win 6-3? Do we want to find out?
And nobody wants that in their life.
Is that a no touchdown? Yeah, was it? Was that a?
It was 3 field goals.
It was a prime time. No, I know. I meant, but that was a prime time. Anytime touchdown, no was the winner.
Yeah, it was the standalone on the day after Christmas.
Awesome.
Oof.
Awesome. That happens once a decade, and it's awesome when it happens. Last time was also Seattle versus Arizona. You remember that
Seattle,
one?
Arizona. They were at the goal line twice.
7 or 8 plays at the goal line in that game, and no touchdown scored. Incredible.
It's funny to remember stuff like that.
David Johnson out at the 1-inch line, and then they attempted the field goal.
Yeah, I passed out. I fell asleep or passed out or something. I didn't catch overtime, all of it. Yeah. And the game was I think one of the teams was -1. It was a closely lined game, and I got in live and I bet a pick 'em. I couldn't even tell you which team I bet a pick 'em on. And I remember watching most of the game, falling asleep for part of it, and then waking up and seeing the tie. And Like, I think I just took a push after all that. What a horrible game.
All
It's
this?
better than a loss. This is an above average special teams unit.
Okay.
Michael Dixon, Jason Myers, and then they brought in Steven Sims.
Okay.
Who's a good returner in both phases. They've used a bunch of different people returning. Kenny McIntosh will be probably part of that group of players, but I think Steven Sims might be returning more kicks than we think. So good. It's a 6.5.
Okay. What'd you do for intangibles?
Oh, I didn't adjust this. I still have my number from last year. I didn't do anything. I had a
What was
4
it?
last year.
Hmm.
I don't know if I trust him to be uber aggressive either. I didn't have like a good aggression number on him. 5. It's a 5.
Okay.
Middle of the pack. He's second year coach. I didn't see a ton of impressive things as far as leader of men. We saw we saw the defense improve, but
He knows his guys.
he does know his guys. I do like that they said Grubb isn't the fit. We're kicking him down the road. So still, it's a 5 for me.
Okay. Let's see here. Final score for Seattle for me was a minus 0.35. A hair under average.
I'm different than you here.
Where you got?
I'm a negative 1.81.
Okay.
Mostly because of the defensive scoring.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how much defense matters this year. Let's it doesn't sound like there's going to be much betting value for you in the West at plus 540. Oh, you know what's funny? Since we pressed play on this podcast where I opened up the lines to be able to call out the price, it has been bet, and it is now 500 for the Seahawks and the Cardinals. They are both plus 500.
We got to scrap this podcast.
We got to start over, man.
Start over and do the Cardinals. Because when it's a tie, we go alphabetically.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you do city or mascot. It's
so somebody took the 540s. Seattle is available at 5. I don't know that that's enough interest. I don't know that I have enough interest to get involved at 5. I feel like this is going to be a fun team to bet. I don't know if this is going to be a fun team to tease. I'm probably not going to bet them.
Yeah, low scoring games that are close, and they might lose a bunch of them. I don't. Even with all the upside that I posited and said, if this happens, I can see this being a good team. But I just struggle to see a spot where I'm betting on a team led by their defense, with a bad quarterback who we've seen almost one good full season out of in a division where we have the Rams and Niners.
Yeah.
And you also have kind of an up and coming team in Arizona.
We got a new menu, or at least an expanded menu at Bookmaker for wins. They now have alt win totals up for every team. There's 3 markets for every team. This is awesome. Good on them. Thank you guys. Seattle is 7.5, 8.5, 9.5. If you are feeling cool on the Sam Darnold experience, you can get under 7.5 at plus 132. If you are feeling warm on the Sam Darnold experience, you can get over 9.5 plus 226. That actually sounds like a bet, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think either way you want to look at an alt.
Yeah.
Take how you feel about Sam Darnold year 2 of the Darnold Sans and make an alt bet.
They can get to 10 wins with the schedule. Defense.
Yeah, there's a bunch of coin flips.
Shit, man.
And if 25? You lose that bet, you're losing it by a bunch. You're not sweating it.
Yeah, right.
Like if Sam Pumpkins and this, and Patrick's already at under 7.5. I think if you're not believing in, it just kind of final thoughts on Darnold, because I know it's polarizing one way or the other, but it was just such a dream situation. I do think when we look back at this era of football, we might look at Kevin O'Connell as one of the best coaches maybe to ever do it. Like
certainly in terms of tootling quarterbacks.
Yeah, he might. I just think he's so young in his career yet, and it might turn out to be like, oh, he got that out of Sam Darnold because it turned out like he was one of the best coaches in that era of football, and he was a top 5 coach for the duration of his 15 years or longer, and the offensive line, especially at the start of the season, much stronger than Seattle. Jefferson Addison, I think, is a much better combination of receivers. They had a much better tight end, at least somebody whose name you knew. They had probably 2 better tight ends. And running game doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Especially in that sort of offense. So I think what we were wrong about the most was probably the Vikings defense getting that good that quick.
Oh, yeah.
I was excited.
And the coverage in particular did not look like they were going to be good enough for a top 3 EPA per play with the D.
I was excited that they got some pass rushers. I'm like, Flores takes a step forward here, but finishing where they did defensively was very much an aberration.
You think an aberration?
I mean, when at the beginning of the season.
Oh yeah,
we said like that happening is wild.
Okay. That I see what you're saying. Ultimately, it didn't feel like it wasn't warranted though.
No.
All right. Well, see if Macdonald can do something similar with Mr. Darnold under center.
Yeah.
Get to 20 points, Sammy, and we win.
Get to 20.
It's kind of the way it feels. But mostly get to 14 and stay inside the teaser. I honestly think that's what you're going to need. You're going to need him to find a way to 11 to 14 points every week to cover those teaser legs.
I don't wish.
Maybe 10.
It'll be the most maddening result is a snap tibia week 3 of the preseason.
Oh,
for Sam.
For Darnold.
And then we just never find out. And I'd be more mad about that than anything, even if I had a bet. No, I'm saying like that's what the universe does to us.
Yeah, we'll never know.
We never get to know the answer.
Yeah.
I think he's been out for. I'm not saying I'm hoping someone gets an injury, but
you just want an answer.
Well, yeah, I want an answer, but also at the same time, we saw him take some brutal hits, especially Lions and Rams game. This team wins how many games if Darnold is out? Let's say week 2, he is injured, and Drew Lock is starting the.
Oh man! Is that bad? That's
because. Well, it's very bleak, and that's where I think this team has some pretty heavy downside with the bad interior offensive line. What if it just turns into a Howell season where, oh my God, he's getting hit, 13 times a game.
Yeah.
And suddenly Sam Darnold is so banged up and he has to miss some times. I don't know that if it happens early, I don't know if you can put Milroe in yet. I think Drew Lock has started enough games where he's your guy and Milroe is again taking some snaps. So that's another reason I think to like if you do like an under, it needs to be an alt under.
That's one of those also where I'm like probably at about a -4 there, but with the offense that's that incapable of even a couple of successful first downs, then your defense starts to really wear it. They get
your defense. Yeah, you played 100 snaps this week. Good. And that's the thing too. If the offensive line is that bad that it results in a Darnold injury, Drew Lock is not faring any better behind that.
No, he's not.
He might suffer the same fate. So
I think this is the Giants from
higher than average chance of missing time as far as starting quarterbacks based on the makeup of this team.
Can't disagree.
Okay. Let's call it a week. That's Monday. I'll be up at the 3 a.m. tomorrow, so I'll probably be doing a show from whatever hotel I booked.
Cool.
I'm going to spend all morning at golf, and then I'll head back and we'll sit down and talk some AC cards. I think I'll be back in the office for Wednesday.
Cool.